And again, we want to welcome everybody to the call tonight. This is the 2014 Indiana Artisan Marketplace webinar series presented by Indiana Artisans for Indiana Artisans. Our topic tonight is going to be tips on booth design and pricing to maximize your booth traffic and sales. And we have a full panel of speakers, and I'll introduce Eric Freeman, the Director of Indiana Artisans, and we can get started. Eric, welcome to the call.
Jeff, thanks. I want to welcome the Kentucky Crafted and Kentucky Proud artisans who are registered for this year's marketplace. Those registrations continue to come in, and just this morning I welcomed 3 more Kentucky artisans and invited them to this series. So I want to welcome them. These webinars are so good, and since one of the goals is to help artisans prepare for the marketplace, it made sense to invite our artist and foodist friends from Kentucky to join us. So welcome. Also want to welcome applicants to Indiana Artisan. The art jury panel met today, and the food jury panel meets the first week in February. We don't publish who sits on the jury panels, but we had 4 artisans on today's panels, and they gave us 3 or 4 hours last week reviewing the applications, and we were busy for, I think, right around 7 hours today. So I want to thank those 4 artisans for the time and the work that they've given Indiana Artisan. And we owe a lot of thanks to the 5 more who are going to share their insights with us tonight. We're all going to learn a lot from tonight's panelists. I don't know what they're going to say, but I have seen the slides that we're all going to see in the next hour, and you really will enjoy this. There's a lot of slides tonight. Jeff already introduced our speakers, but in the order they're going to present is Amy Greely, Tashia Johnson St. Clair, Greg Adams, Tom Wintczak, and Carrie Strange, in that order. Amy's going to start because she's kind of the odd man or woman out. Amy is consistently the highest grossing artisan at the marketplace. I think 2 years ago she may have been number 2, but she's been number 1 the other years. And the title of tonight's session is Tips on Booth Design and Pricing to Maximize Your Booth Traffic and Sales. And Amy can talk broadly about all of those points. And then we're going to move to Tashia as the lone food artisan on this panel. She will talk about what she did last year to earn the Best in Show Booth Award as a food artisan. There's a lot of value to that award. I want to encourage all of you to try for that. Not only do you get bragging rights throughout the marketplace, you also get a free booth space the following year. So there's a lot of reason to try to get that award. So Tashia's going to talk about what she did last year as a food artisan to earn that, and then we're going to go to Greg Adams, who earned the very first Best in Show Booth Award at the very first marketplace. Greg has about 50 slides to show you, so he's got all kinds of great booth designs to illustrate his points tonight. Tom Wintczak earned the Best in Show Booth Award in 2012, and Tom's booth is always, I think, the warmest and coziest looking at the marketplace. He's going to share what he does in terms of booth design, and then we'll wrap it up with Carrie Strange, who earned the Best in Show Award last year with Tashia. We have a food Best in Show and an art Best in Show now at the marketplace. And Carrie earned the art Best in Show Booth Award. I would describe Carrie's booth as minimalist. She has slides too, and you'll see how she merchandises her letterpress work in a way that I think almost forces guests to come out of the aisle and into her booth, and she'll talk about how she does that. So, Amy Greely, are you ready to start us off?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, good. Well, first of all, I want to start out by saying that pretty much all of us have the ability to win the Best in Show or to be one of the top salespeople at the marketplace. We all know that our products, whether they're art or craft, are excellent, or we wouldn't be part of this fabulous group. So it kind of all comes down to how you present it, and it doesn't have to break the bank to be able to do it well. Personally, I confess to avoiding shows for years because while I had the confidence in my product, I also had the morbid fear that my booth would be that one that everybody just walked past without even really looking at it to see what was on display. It took a lot of thought and a lot of serious encouragement and hand-holding by some very dear friends who are also an Indiana Artisan to get me to take the plunge. But what really got me started was some serious thought about what I wanted the customer to do. And in my mind, that boils down to really 3 simple things. I needed them to enter, engage, and exit. So to get customers to feel comfortable enough to actually enter my space really required a lot of thought on my part. I know that sounds simple, but it's actually very complex. There's color choices, the choices of my branding, my lighting, my display, my attitude, my clothing, my body language. I use all of those to communicate to them what they're going to find in my booth, which is an easygoing professional artist with quirky jewelry that's made with traditional materials and non-traditional ways. But I have to communicate all of that within the few seconds it takes them to walk that 10-foot piece of real estate that defines a booth. Once they actually feel comfortable enough to venture into that space, then there has to be enough product and enough variety to entice them to linger. Lingering is the goal because not only does it usually lead to a sale, but it also draws more people in, if nothing else, just to see what everyone else is looking at. And the newcomers can easily see from across the aisle that people are interested and that they are not being held hostage by me while they browse. Makes them feel comfortable. So you've all seen the people who pause at the edge of your booth space, not your booth space, but a booth space, craning their neck with their feet right at the edge to try to see everything that's in your booth without making the commitment to enter. That, to me, is the kiss of death. So they're summing up your product. They're watching how you interact with others, and they're deciding if they feel comfortable enough to enter your space, all of this within a few seconds. That's a lot to take in, and it's a lot for us to communicate in a few seconds. So think about what you might be communicating without even saying a word. It's pretty powerful. There's a lot to say. For me, encouraging them to enter, I approached my display in a very non-traditional, especially for jewelry, and inexpensive way. Instead of cases that are placed at the front edge of the space, I chose not to create a barrier between me and my product and the customer. And the way I did that was by using 5 round folding tables, which invite movement throughout the booth. I want to bring them in. The tables are elevated with risers to bring the overall height to eye level. This is a Bruce Baker tip. If you have not signed up for that awesome seminar, I would highly recommend you do that. The tables are simply covered with very inexpensive restaurant tablecloths that I bought on Amazon. They're lighted with home fabricated oversized floor lamps that my husband and I put together after a trip to Lowe's, and then we topped them off with what we think are the perfect shades, collapse easily for transport from IKEA. Not a whole lot of money involved in any of this. Each of the light fixtures houses 3 halogen 50-watt bulbs, and if it's available, I always buy the extra lighting that the venue provides. It's the best $80 I've ever spent. If they can't see the product, it won't sell. We also built plastic risers for each table, which also fold flat, and they're very lightweight. I have to say Velcro is one of the most awesome inventions. I set this up and haul it by myself, so it had to be easy to assemble and super lightweight. As you can see from the picture, I think there might be a picture up there, that first one, Jeff. As you can see, the lighting really stands out as different. It's not the same kind of lighting you see in most booths, and it really draws attention to those 5 tables. And the rest of the booth kind of fades away into the sea of black to let the product shine. You can use your creativity, we all have it, to come up with ideas outside of the box which both support your brand and highlight your product. Sometimes just wandering through the aisles of Lowe's or one of those kinds of stores can really provide all sorts of ideas. With jewelry or any other small product, it's really easy to overwhelm the customer's eye. So all of my display materials, my hang tags, my packaging, they're all the same color because I want to highlight the product itself. I group each table display of those 5 groups completely by color. This allows the customer to see things in a larger block first, and they can kind of skim over the colors that they don't like. If they hate blue, they just don't even look at that table. They go right to the green, which might be their choice. This way the eye's not overwhelmed, searching through too many pieces to try to see if there's something that grabs their attention. Another way to do this, depending on your product, might be groupings by use or some other style of definition. The goal is to get them to focus in on what they like quickly so that they can move on to the next step, which is to engage. Once I get them into the booth, I want to engage them with the product. Each table is completely accessible. You can walk completely around it. Everything is right there for them to pick up. I want them to pick it up. Yes, I worry about theft, and yes, it does happen, but it's very limited and it's well worth the risk. I try to merchandise things in a way that minimizes that risk. So the tables at the aisles are filled with lower priced items that are very colorful to draw the eye. That kind of draws them in. With each grouping, there's a wide range of price points. This is another tip that I learned from Bruce Baker the last time he was here, and that is to make sure you have at least 3 levels of pricing. People don't want to buy the cheapest, makes them feel bad. They don't also want to buy the most expensive, so they gravitate to the middle of the road, and I provide plenty of wiggle room within that middle range. The more expensive items of each of those groups that are toward the front aisle, I display on the interior side of the booth so that I can see it more easily. The very most expensive items in my entire booth, the ones that are the most painful to lose, are displayed at the back. These are the tables at the back, and I always have a helper manning the checkout area. So she's standing back there checking people out, chatting with people, and keeping an eye on the things that really would be painful to lose. This concept serves 2 functions. One, the low end is at the aisles. Customers pick it up. They know they can afford it. Then they start to scan what else is in the booth. They see those higher end pieces that are going to draw their eye even more, but they have to enter the booth to actually see it. I want them in my booth. My goal here is to get the customers to actually touch that merchandise, to feel that it's lightweight, that it would be comfortable to wear, to see the price without having to ask, and to see what it's made out of, which is written on the back of each hang tag. Once they pick it up, then I start talking to them about what makes the piece special, how it's made, what the design was inspired by, engage them in conversation. They're encouraged to try things on. I assure them that each piece is cleaned afterwards and actually do it in their presence so they know that everything is sterilized as it's on the hang tag. All of this is carefully orchestrated to get them to engage. The trick to knowing I'm going to have a successful show is when I have groups of women all trying on earrings. They don't know each other, but they're commenting on each other's choices. It kind of becomes a girlfriend's party, even though they don't know each other, and they all have a blast. I don't have to sell my product at that point. They do it for me, which leads to the final step, which is the exit. And hopefully that exit involves them buying a piece of my jewelry. And even if they don't, I'm very careful about my body language and my words that communicate to them that I really enjoyed talking with them, looking forward to talking with them again, and encouraging them to enjoy the rest of the show. A lot of times I'll highlight upcoming entertainment that they don't want to miss, suggest a couple of my favorite booths that they don't want to miss. No pressure, no disappointment. A lot of this kind of goes without saying. Everyone knows this, but yet when we let go of that body language of that disappointment, people, they walk away, they come back, many times they come back, purchase, and even if they don't, they still have that really good feeling that they made a friend, they chatted with somebody, they had a great time. So even if they didn't make the sale with me that day, they know where I am, they know where my store is, they have my contact information, and they have they know my story, and they know how to get in touch with me via social media. So to me, the price of the booth, a few days of my time, is really the best advertising that I can buy, because it's the best advertising to be able to talk face-to-face with someone who you know is interested in your product. They paid admission to get in. They're looking for handcrafted. May not have been your turn today, but they'll find you later on. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Amy. Let me check. This is Jeff. See if we've got any questions. Nothing yet. If we are listening on the phone, if you have a question, just go ahead and say something if you have a question for Amy. The phone lines are open. Amy, you did a great job. No questions.
All right.
I have a compliment. Hello?
Hello?
I have a compliment for Amy. Can you hear me?
Okay.
This is Tasha. I'm the next speaker, but I was telling Jeff before the call that your booth, it makes it look like an actual jewelry store, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, well, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tasha, that's a great segue into your booth, and I've got your slide up. You're ready to go.
Okay. Well, that's just my website right there, so we can go on to slide number 8. And I agree with Amy that anybody can do this. You do not have to spend a lot of money. You can make it look like you spent a lot of money, but you really do not have to spend a lot of money to create a booth that looks, that looks nice like this. Now, Amy gave her reasons for why she needed people to come into her booth, and I have several reasons too. I needed the customers, I needed the people to, first of all, enter my booth. I needed them to sample. I needed them to ooh and ah over the popcorn flavors that they tasted so that others could hear that and linger, and then other people would come. I needed them to select their bags, and then I needed them to easily and rapidly check out. So I'm going to describe my booth, and we are on slide number 8. Are you there, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay. So my booth there, we have the burgundy color tablecloths because my logo is burgundy and kind of a gold color. So my tablecloths, and it's really nothing fancy. I think I got them from Walmart. The floor covering is burgundy, and I got that, matter of fact, I got it on sale at Menards, so I think that might have been around $11 or something, but it wasn't very expensive. The black display back there in the back, the wall, whatever, that's to hold the product. And I did black so that the product would pop, especially there with the gold bags. And then there are several products there on the display. Over to the left, there are handouts on that table on the left. There are handouts, menus, business cards. There are also some wholesale packets, and I'll talk about that later. And then, of course, we have our company banner. Our sampling station is right there on the right. And I had my daughter, Olivia, run that because she is outgoing. She is a people person, and she cannot run the cash register to save her life. So that's why I put her over there on the sampling station. So we had our bowls of samples right there, and then we have kind of like some popcorn-shaped placards that had the flavors of the popcorn, so it was nice and big. Then the bowls were full of the different samples. Excuse me. We passed out the samples, so we had, the food-grade gloves on our hands. We did not let people stick their hands in the bowls. And if you offer samples, let me suggest that you do not let people reach into your bowls and serve themselves, because a lot of people are turned off by that. If they see that you're letting people stick their hands in the bowls, then they won't want a sample. But if they see that you're giving the samples out with your gloved hand, then, yes, they will gladly accept a sample. But so we have the samples there, and we do have them on risers so that, you could see the ones there in the back. If we go over to the checkout station, that is the table on the left. My daughter, India, ran that one. She is not a people person, and I'm not saying she's stuck up or anything, but she's very shy and very soft-spoken. Whereas Olivia, if somebody tried to stick their hands in the bowl, Olivia would scream and scare them half to death so that they wouldn't stick their hand in the bowl. India probably wouldn't say anything. But India was the one that ran the cash register as well as the credit card machine. And then on that table, we also had, we had the cash register, credit card machine, and an ink pen that was tied down so that nobody could walk off with our ink pen because we didn't want the next customer to not have an ink pen. And then on that table, we had business cards. We had a list so people could sign up for an email list. And then we also had wholesale packets. Now, the wholesale packets that we had were in black folders to kind of match that display back there in the back with our Sweet Poppins label on the front. And inside it had our business card, it had menus, and our wholesale requirements. And those were perfect for people, like if our booth was busy and people couldn't stop to talk, or if I was talking to other customers and someone came and wanted to talk about wholesale, they were happy just to take the folder and just take that with them. But it had the order form and everything that they needed to know about wholesale orders. Okay, next slide, please. And please don't pay attention to the boxes there. That was not there when we had the event. I think I took this when we were getting set up. But that is a closer picture of our display. And I'm going to explain in the when I get to the next slide how you can see a closer look. But this right here, as you can see, we have plenty of products. So we had in each section was a flavor of popcorn. So say, for example, the top left, those might have been half-pound bags of pralines and cream, and then the next flavor might have been lemon pound cake or whatever. But each flavor was there in each individual section. And all of the samples that we had the bags of the product right there. Next slide, please. This is, and I forgot to mention something. I got this whole display idea from the Bruce Baker merchandising workshop. I am not crafty at all. I told Jeff before the call, I'll take 2 pieces of paper, glue them together, and call that my craft. I am not crafty at all. And so by going to the Bruce Baker Dynamic Sales Display and Merchandising Workshop, I was able to get this idea here for this booth. All they are, if you would back up to slide number 9, please, Jeff. All they are cardboard boxes. I buy my popcorn pre-popped, and then I do all the coating and flavoring at my commercial kitchen. When I get my popcorn shipped in, it comes in cardboard boxes. So I'm just reusing my cardboard boxes, and you can see the cardboard boxes right there on the floor. All I did was spray painted them black, and then if you look at the very top, the top row, you'll see some cutouts in the boxes there, okay? So if we go back to slide number 10, you'll see those black clips there. Those black clips, I would connect boxes, 2 boxes together with those black clips to hold them together. And then on the front and on the inside, I not only did I spray paint all the insides of these boxes, but I went to Hobby Lobby and bought some black wrapping paper, and it is beautiful. I love it. But then I used these black clips again to hold them down. This black wrapping paper helped to cover the spots that I didn't quite spray paint too well with the black paint, and then it also added a higher quality look to it. So that is how I created mine. If we go to slide number 11, that's Olivia. You can see, yeah, she's very outgoing. But this is after we got the award for Best in Show. I could not believe that I won it. I'm still shocked. Just because, you know, I'm not a crafty person, and to be awarded this Best in Show award, I'm completely blown away. But that is about it. Does anybody have any questions?
Tasha, let me check here.
Okay.
Let's see. We've got a question. I think for Amy, this is the first time around. me open up the phone lines. If anybody has a question listening on the phone, the lines are open. Go ahead and ask Tasha your question. Tasha, I think you covered everything because I don't see anybody speaking up.
Okay.
Amy, are you still on the call? Amy may not be. We can ask the questions for Amy when she gets back on here at the end. And so let's see, who's up next? Greg.
Yes.
Greg, welcome to the call. You're up next.
Thank you. I'm here.
Super.
I'd like to compliment both Tasha and Amy with their use of black. It isolates. It's perfect for indoor shows.
Thank you.
I used to go to shows where they would have the purple and gold and white backdrops, and it was horrible. I'm so glad to see that a lot of the shows have gone to the black backgrounds, and that really helps.
Thank you.
I do a lot of outdoor shows. The first shot there is in my shop, and you can see it's a cluttered mess. That's just the remainder of everything I haven't sold. But when I go to outdoor shows, I try to make it so people can walk through very easily, and things are very accessible. Please touch. I try to encourage people to do that. And I try to do the same thing that Amy was talking about, engaging people with questions about them. I always try to I always ask people where they're from. That's one of the things I always do, and that seems to relax people, and they like that. I do a lot of shows where, with other artisans, like John Bundy, you'll see the ducks there of John's. He and I do shows together, and it kind of fits together really well. We try to do a lot of whatever the site we're at. We have to kind of go with the flow with wherever we're at. Lighting, really important. Some places have really dead lighting. Some places are really good, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you have your own lighting, you can take care of it yourself. When I go to an outdoor show, I try to spread my stuff out as much as I can. I try to get on a corner as much as I can and wangle my way into maybe a spot that's not as practical for other people, but works well for me. I like to have it so that I can have people walking through and sitting down and relaxing a little bit. You can kind of see the number 20 shot. My booth stands out from the other 1,000 white canopies. I think one of the things about shows outdoors can be like people, they cannot absorb all the things that they see in the white canopies, and so if I stand out from that, that helps me a little bit. I try to prepare for that so I can get everything under cover. Most of my stuff is not harmed by getting wet, but I know a lot of other artisans, that's a real tragedy if it gets wet. So one of the things I try to do is a room setting. You can kind of see that in number 27. Again, with the black background, a little bit of lighting on the inside, very open. I have a tendency to try to put too much stuff in my booth, and I've tried to overcome that. I try to think that just one example of each thing that I make is enough, and I try not to overdo that. Years past, I used to do demonstrations every time I set up, and while people found that kind of fun, it did kind of draw away from sales as far as engaging people, but they were engaged by the process, so that it kind of goes both ways. I try to be flexible. I try to, if it's a 2-day show, I try to change things around the second day to try to make a little variety, whatever works. If things don't flow through the booth, I try to make it so it does. Often I'll sit in the booth and it's almost like coming into my living room. Like I said, I do a lot of shows with other artisans, and I try to help other artisans with their booth and using some of their items in my booth and in their booth as well. So, but I agree with what the Tashia and Amy talked about, the lighting, the engaging people, having things at eye level, having a variety of price points is really important. It shows I don't sell big items usually, but I do sell a lot of little items, and that can kind of pay for the booth fee a lot of times. So I really can't think of anything else. If anybody has any questions, fire away.
Greg, hang on just a second. Let me open up the line, see if anybody's got any questions on the phones. If you've got a question, just go ahead and say something. Your lines are open. I do have a question coming through the webcast from Joanne in Carmel. Do the sidewalls of the booth have high curtains or just the back? I saw in Greg's booth the curtains are high, not the case for the popcorn booth. Eric, are you?
I think it just looks, my booth, it looks like it's different. It's the same height.
The art booths have 8-foot high walls, a back and 2 sides, unless you're on a corner. Those curtains are 8 foot high. The food artisans have a 4-foot high wall for a variety of reasons, but largely so when they come in the top of the aisle, the visitor can look all the way down and see all the different food artisans. Those 8-foot high walls provide really sort of mini gallery space, M-I-N-I, mini gallery spaces for the art artisans. So there is a difference, and Joanne, you caught the 2 differences.
Greg, thank you very much. Tom, I think you're up.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks. And I agree with a lot of things that everybody said so far, and I was kind of worried about going forth because I thought, gosh, you know, what else is there going to be to say? But I think I do have some things to add, and I'm just going to start out by saying this is that first shot is a shot from my website, but yeah, that one there. But the next slide, that one there, we'll stay on that just for a little bit. I would like to give people some things to think about in their booth, especially new people that are doing this. I've been doing this for about 10 years, and my booth has evolved over the years, and it's gotten to a point where I feel comfortable, and I continue to think about it, and I'm still changing some things now. So don't think that just because you start out with one plan that, boy, that's it forever. You know, I think a good way to learn about this is what we're doing today and having other artisans talk about their booths, and then walk through our, you know, we all do art shows, and if you don't do them or you haven't done them so far, walk through booths and look at how people have their lighting and what they're setting their product on, and just pricing, and just there's a myriad of things. And I don't think anybody is mad if you borrow ideas. No one's booth is ever going to look alike, and that's a fact. But borrowing ideas is the way to improve your product and maybe improve your sales. I think that the way I started out with my booth, and honestly, I was like Tashia. When I won the award, it was the night before April Fool's Day when Eric came to me, and you could have knocked me over with a feather, and I thought he was kidding when he gave me the award. But and I'm quite honored by it because there were really a lot of nice booths, I thought, and so you know that even made me think more about what I was doing. And I start out by personalizing my booth, and I use it as a marketing tool. The whole booth. It's not just a place to put your stuff in a 10 by 10 space for 2 days. It's a place to use as a tool, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. This first slide This is not at the marketplace. This is a show that was done 2 weeks later, actually, at a gymnasium in New Harmony. I live close to New Harmony, Indiana. And but this is a better picture. You'll see some of the slides are fuzzy that I took at the Artisan Marketplace, just because I took those pictures with an iPad. And I do that with all my shows. I just take the pictures after I get set up, just so I have a running record of what I've done. But this picture right here exemplifies everything that I look for to do on all sides of my booth. And one is to display it like it was displayed in the period. And what I mean by that is I do a product called redware, and it's a type of pottery that was done in early America as early as 1625 and ran its heyday from 1750 to 1850. A lot of people know what it is, but a lot of people don't. And I try to display it in a way that shows how it would have been displayed in the period. So that's the plate rack. Also in this little section, you see the lighting, very warm, and I'm gonna talk about that. And I need warm lighting for my redware. Obviously, in the period, candlelight was it, no electricity. So I had to come up with some ways that would make things look good. What you're seeing on in this little vignette here too is all of my price points. So wherever you're standing in my booth, at any one of the points, I keep all of my price points together. So I've got on this table anywhere from $20 to $350. And I think that's real important, because if you group like items together or like priced items together, you might get somebody standing in front of those items, and other people in a 10 by 10 space, it doesn't work well. They may just think everything I have in my booth is $300, and they'll just walk right on by. So I like to keep a good mix, so those people who can spend the money or want to spend the money, and those who can't can still buy something of mine. So, and the last thing I want to talk about just from this slide is pricing. And I think that is more important than what people think. I mean the physical pricing. If you see the little white dots or little white squares at the bottom next to each plate or figure or whatever, that's actually a little folded up cardstock, and it has the price written on there. And I think that's real important for a couple of reasons. I don't want people reaching over. These are ceramics. If you drop them, they'll break. And I don't mind if people touch them, but I think sometimes they feel funny. I think the other thing is when you stick a label or a price tag on a product, it takes away from the product, no matter how small it is. And that's just a personal preference of mine. I'd rather have a little card next to it. It almost looks like a gallery piece then, and it gives a kind of a higher end look to it. We can go to the next slide now. This is the booth at the Indiana Artisan Marketplace, and I was fortunate to have a corner. So what drives my booth are two things, product and functionality. And my product, obviously, is the redware pottery, and so I want my booth to reflect that period. I also want the booth to show how it was displayed in homes, whether it be like on countertops, bureaus, kitchen shelves, or hutches. This is what it would have looked like with all different colors of the warm redware clay together. And I also want people to see how it would look in their homes today, and that's kind of my philosophy there. And I also, there's a lot of product in this booth, and it's kind of counterintuitive, because I've been to seminars where people say, don't put too much product in your booth, don't go to the floor. And I was really worried about that, and I thought it might look too crowded. But honestly, this is the way you see my product in magazines that deal with colonial homes or, from the period. You'll see it in collections, and you'll see it grouped together. If you're ever in a historic home, in a kitchen, you'll see it together with different pieces. And I wasn't going to put pieces all the way to the floor, but honestly, when I got to the marketplace and I had the black carpet, and that's provided by the exposition center. It really provided a nice backdrop, again, for the color of my pieces. Now, when you're in the booth and you're looking down, you don't see the concrete underneath the curtain. So what you're seeing is the plates against the black carpet. So it's just it just works well for me. We can go to the next slide. And another thing I want to talk about, so I said the product drives the plan, but also the functionality. And for me, you know, a potter, and any potter will tell you, pottery is heavy. And to lug it around, you've got to have something very sturdy. And what I thought early on when I started doing shows was that a good way to do this was to haul my product in my display. And it just works for me, because in the time period, potters would have done the same thing. They would have put their wares in straw, in crates, and they would have put it on a wagon and gone to market. So this is setting a tone for my booth in that period. The crates are made by a friend of mine. They're made out of yellow or tulip poplar, which is the state tree of Indiana. We used wrought head nails on it, so it's very subtle. It's giving you a period look to those pieces and the display structure. The boards are yellow poplar. They're the shelves. They're 16-inch boards, which, again, in this time period in colonial America, those are the kind of boards that you would have seen. They're not glued up. I'm very fortunate to have found 16-inch wide yellow poplar boards. And so I get people, I get men especially who are interested in woodworking will come in my booth and might end up buying something because they saw the boards for my shelving, which is really, it's pretty neat. So don't underestimate what your display does for you. Also, the lamps that I have, and I think lighting is probably one of the most important things that any booth can do. I know people have talked about it before, but I make lamps out of my redware jugs and jars. And it's just a no-brainer for me to bring those because I can sell them, but they provide a nice warm light for my booth. And it's very inviting. That's the thing. I want to invite people into my booth. I want them to feel like they're in their living room or they're in their dining room or there's a hutch with my product in it. And they could kind of envision my product in their home. Also in the functionality, everything you see in my booth fits in my Toyota Highlander. And very careful to measure things, but everything does fit in there. And we can go to the next slide. And the plate rack actually fits on top on the luggage rack. And we talked about cost of things. You know, everybody who is in an Indiana Artisan or Kentucky crafted, very, very creative people, that rack is very cheap scrap lumber. The back of it is very thin plywood, and it's just painted black. But when you set it up and you put, when I put my product on it, it looks like a hutch from the 1800s. When I get to a show, because it's on the luggage rack, I have to clean the bugs off the side of it. That's saying a lot. I didn't want to put a lot. That's the side right there, and I didn't want to put a lot of money into this. So, so don't think that you have to put a lot of money. Now the lighting, you see my redware lamps, but I needed some type of lighting to display my rack or display the plate rack. And I got those lights at Lowe's, and I think they were less than $20. But again, it still gives that antique look to my product. They're kind of galvanized barn lights. We can go to the next slide. There's a close-up of them. And we talked about cost. What I did is, and what you can do with any lamp or light, is this is just, I built a little poplar box, and I hardwired it to an extension cord. Now these are all available at Lowe's or Home Depot, and I'll tell you, if you don't feel comfortable with electricity, either a parent or spouse or friend or somebody who's comfortable with it, It's real simple. There's 3 wires, black to black, white to white, ground to ground. You can't mess it up, really, if you just, everything's color-coded and you make sure the bare wires are wrapped with electrical tape or wire nuts, and you're good to go. The actual electric cord is a heavy-duty cord because the fire code in places like the marketplace requires that. But those cords come with the exposed wires at the end, so they're made for something like this. So this whole lamp right here, less than $20, and I use regular incandescent light bulbs. It just works well for my pottery. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Again, I was talking about using the booth as a marketing tool, and the 3 canvas prints that are hanging from the wall do a couple of things. They give height to the booth, and they give some interest to that wall because I just can't keep building up shelves. So the one on the top left, and these are those, you just take a photograph, and there's many places on the internet, and if you want to know a couple, I think Canvas on Demand is one, and I don't know, there's some others, but there's a lot of places that do it relatively inexpensive. That's actually the sign to my studio, and I like using that instead of, like most places will put a cardboard sign up or something like the marketplace does, and that's fine with the booth number on it. But this individual, it kind of changes it, and it kind of brings my name to the booth in the way that I want it to. The picture on the far right, it's hard to see, but it's actually a picture of my studio, and I work in a 1850 log cabin, actually, which is my studio. That's a marketing tool for me. I don't know how many people at the marketplace, I bring that into the conversation. This is my studio. If you're ever down in the New Harmony area, please call me, come out and visit. I have an open studio, and that engages people. And I do pretty well at the marketplace. I don't do my 10 times like we were talking about on the first webinar, but afterwards I get the 10 times because I do get people that come to that are in New Harmony, and they call me, and they do come out, and they do buy because they're definitely interested if they come out and see me. The image in the center, again, is another marketing tool that I point to a lot when I'm engaging customers. It's hard to see, but it's in color, and it's a table setting with my redware pottery on it because people will look at the pieces and they see that they're highly decorated, and they think, I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, how does this all go together? I show them. I give them a physical image of what this can look like and what it looked like in the period. That takes people over the edge sometimes, and redware pottery is very collectible. That's what I need. I need to get people over the edge who aren't collecting it, maybe to get 1 piece or 2 pieces, because once you get 1 or 2, you're on your way. And I think that's important for me, and that's what I try to do. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, just a couple more things. I know I'm kind of going long, but I want to point this out too. I engage every person who comes in my booth, as I'm sure everybody does. My booth becomes kind of like a museum at that point, and because a lot of times people, they're drawn in by the warmth. The first question, I greet them, I ask them if they're familiar with redware. A lot of people say yes, and then I ask them about what they have, where they've seen it, and I kind of gauge the conversation with that, and I tell them what I'm doing in my museum research. People who don't know redware, I start right from the beginning of what redware is and what the type of clay that I use. I also have a lot of information cards around pieces, where this piece came from, what era this was, or why this is historically significant. In this particular picture, you can see I have a book actually on a wooden book stand in the center. It's kind of hard to see there, but and that has some mid-19th century figural pieces like animals, lambs and dogs, and that comes from the American Folk Art Museum in New York City. There's a picture of a lamb, for example, in that book that I reproduce, and one recently sold for $58,000. I sell it for $75. it's a marketing tool that most people aren't going to pay, 6 or 5, 6 figures for a piece. But if they want something for their 18th or early 19th century style home, they start to consider that I'm kind of their person. So I guess what I'm saying is with my whole booth and the interaction with my guests, because that's what I feel they are when they come into my booth, it's a package of the period product and a whole set of visuals, whether they know it or not, because I'm setting that period of time in their mind. And on my last slide, I've put together kind of a little, I pulled all the pieces together so you could kind of see what I'm talking about. Of course, here's some of the period pieces that I do, the redware, but like the little price card that has the 40 on it, I actually do those with a calligraphy pen so it looks like it's numbers from the time period. The supply box to the left of the plate is a reproduction of a box that would have been a storage box. When I have candle holders, you can see there's some hanging hand-dipped candles that I use. Any textiles that I use in the booth are either hand-woven or a homespun type fabric that would have been used in the period. For elevation purposes, because you need different elevations no matter what product you have in your booth, it just gives visual interest. I use cut off tree stumps, I use small crates, sometimes I use big flat rocks if I have them. It's just setting that tone that that's what was available in the time period. The lighting, the tin lamp, and then also my card holder is styled on a little, it's clay that I made, but it's based on a bigger candle box that people in the period would have stuck candles in. So when you look at my booth, there's this continual period type look to it. So, and so in summary, I think no matter what you are making as an artisan, let your product and your functionality drive your booth. Just give it some thought, and it will come to you because you know your product better than anybody, and you know how to talk about it. Tell your story through your booth, and use your booth as that marketing tool. And it needs to become a total marketing tool for you to use because you're paying for it, so use it. That's all I have.
Thanks, Tom. The lines are open. If you have a question for Tom, just go ahead and say something. Through the internet, Pam from Fishers has a comment. If possible, I would love to see examples of booths with fine art displayed in a more non-traditional manner. Getting people to cross the invisible line, quote unquote, is always a challenge with fine art. I'd like some creative inspiration. Thank you to all the presenters. Good information. Any questions for Tom? Okay, I think our last speaker is ready to go. Carrie, you're up.
I am. Hi there. Well, like Tom, my booth tends to evolve, and I'm actually still kind of new to this. This will be my 4th marketplace. I was at the first one, and that was my first big show, and I was really, really nervous. And so I hope newcomers get out of this that it's okay if you don't have it all figured out. You learn, and you just go on and be better the next time. So this is my first booth at the first marketplace. Before the show, I went to Kentucky Crafted to see what other people were doing, and I don't feel like a fine artist. I do letterpress stationery. And so I ended up looking at stationery booths at the National Stationery Show. And a lot of people use foam board. It's disposable. It's in New York City, so they have to set up and tear down really quickly. And I didn't really know what I wanted. My dad can build me anything, but I didn't know what I wanted. So I bought some foam board, and I moved the dining room table and set up and figured out what I wanted to do. If you go back to the last slide first. This setup, I actually learned a lot. The foam board worked really well, and I used pieces of furniture out of my office to support everything and to display my product. And I also used product photography a friend took for me and blew it up to show detail and to get people's attention. And all my cards are pretty small. On the right of the booth, I actually used thumbtacks to display some of my cards so people can feel them. I use a really thick cotton paper. It's really nice and fluffy, and then when you letterpress it, you get a really nice impression, and you can feel that. And my flooring is a bamboo mat. I'm still using it. It rolls up. It fits in the car. And I think this again was a really concerning project because foam board is a good way to go, but it can be tricky. It warps when you paint it. And then another thing I learned from my first time was don't make your whole booth 10 by 10 because it may not fit. You need to make it a little bit smaller. We had to cut one of the sides down and go to the hobby store and buy some more paint. So, and this booth, I didn't really have any place to put a cash drawer or bags for products. So my next booth, yep, there we go. This booth, this setup, my dad helped me with. It's actually in two pieces, so it can collapse or expand. And the setup is for a corner booth, which is working better for me, I think. You'll see in the next couple of slides. But here is the bottom half. So the top walls aren't attached yet, but I wanted to show you that it works in two pieces. And then here in the foreground is like where I keep my cash box and bags and snacks. And let's see, the next slide, please. And then one of my goals, well, I do most of the shows by myself, or my husband can help me at the beginning of the show, but he can't help me at the end, or vice versa. And so this is, I was on my way to Kentucky Crafted last year, and everything had to fit in the car. I did set up by myself. All my product is in there. My booth is in there. My clothes are in there. Everything had to fit. So just the next slide. And then this is my booth from last year. So 2 years later, I have the solid bottom plywood and 1x4s mostly, and then still a couple office pieces from bookshelf. In the back, you can't really see it, but you saw in the previous slide, my little point of purchase area. And the top part, the blue walls are still foam board at this point, but I still have product on the wall that people like to touch. And then the big product images that help draw people in. I like an open booth so people can stand and look and move around. And on the bookcases in the front, there are product on both sides. So there's a nice flow. And then the next slide. You can't see it, but I did start playing with lighting last year. I had underneath the shelves, I had little mini LED lights, and they they were kind of more troubles than they were worth, but they did add a little bit more light. And then in the bookcases, I had pop-on lights, and those help just to kind of highlight the products that aren't lit from above. And then at this booth, I brought my little letterpress, my little tabletop one. It's right there in the middle. It's very dark. You can barely see it, but it really helped to bring people in. Like a guy would walk by and he would grab his wife. He would be, oh, we used to play with these in IT or drafting class, and so I got a couple more sales because a guy stopped and liked my letterpress. I feel like I went through this really quickly. This is how I do my booth. It's not a right way or a wrong way, and it's evolving again this year. The bottom is all pretty much the same, and then I've finally got rid of the foam board. This foam board in here lasted for 2 years, 4 shows, so it did pretty well. But I'm going to plywood now, and I've changed my colors a little bit. It's going to look more like hopefully like an old print shop to kind of give it a different time period. This look was really clean, and it got a lot of people's attention, and it did really well for me. But I want to try to bring in the new or the old with the new, kind of like a letterpress. It's an old technique and with a new twist. So, and I have lighting this year. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Carrie. If anybody has a question for Carrie, let me go ahead and open up the lines real quick. You can just ask. Eric, let me check to see if we've got any new questions for Carrie. I don't see any. We've got some old questions that I missed, but do you want to talk about some other stuff first?
Sounds good. Happy to. I take notes of these, as those of you who have dialed in the last couple of weeks know, and I think Tom said the quintessential quote tonight about once you get people to buy 1 or 2 pieces, you're on your way to creating a collector. And I'll be amazed if Bruce Baker doesn't say something similar to that next week. I have my 2 pieces of Tom's beautiful redware, and I'll be back at his booth in March. I also, my wife's birthday always falls either during the marketplace or right immediately before it or immediately after. This year she turns 50 the day after. I'm not sure what I'm going to do to make it up to her, because I'm going to have to miss it. I can see it coming with all the work that's associated with the marketplace. But
I'll bring some special pieces, Eric.
There you go. There you go. Well, but I was going to say, part of her birthday present for the last 3 years has been a piece of Amy's jewelry. She really likes Amy's work, and so that's always an easy present. I can shop the marketplace while I'm there working, and she comes to see it, and I can give her present. And if you know me, you know I'm a little compulsive with thank you notes, and I do use Carrie's letterpress thank you notes, and she mentioned about the paper that she uses, and I use them primarily because I like how they feel on my hand. But it's also a way for me to kind of help people understand how seriously I take the importance of supporting Indiana artisans, and I don't necessarily mean Indiana artisans, but just Indiana artisans in general. All 5 of you tonight have booths. I spend a fair amount of time in during the marketplace, and I knew you would do a good job, and I want to thank you for doing this. I know a couple of you were a little more frightened than I wished you were, and I just want to say thanks a lot for taking the time to prep and to put these slides together and to think about all the good words to say. I also want to do my little commercial for the Bruce Baker Workshop. It occurred to me this week that I haven't been clear that Bruce's workshop is our marketplace prep workshop. You know, the last 3 years we've had a day-long workshop in January, And we usually have about 80, I think one year we had 120 artisans come, and we bring people in who talk for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half each, and we go through 5 or 6 of them, and they all have a specific topic. And I haven't been clear that this year we are not having that kind of workshop. That the workshop, the prep for the marketplace, is Bruce. And it's a week from today. It's next Tuesday. And rather than bring in a series of speakers to speak all day, we brought in what I consider to be the man. He's been on the board of directors of the American Craft Council. He's an artist himself. He owns 2 galleries. He's a jeweler, and he sells his jewelry nationwide. He's got a series of CDs out, not just on sales, and I've said this the last couple of weeks during these webinars, but not just on sales, but specifically the sale of art. He talks about how to get customers to come into your booth, how to know where you are during the sales process, how to think to yourself, how your salesmanship is going with this particular customer, how to read their body language, how to kind of know what to say next, how to break the ice. Greg talked about that tonight. Just when he said, I asked people, where are you from? And that's a good way to start. I'm sure Bruce will say, and give you several tips next Tuesday on how to break the ice. So all of this to say that this is our marketplace prep workshop. I've said it before. It's $70 for 7 hours. That includes a lunch from McAllister's Deli. You cannot beat $10 an hour for the kind of advice Bruce is going to give you next week. So if you're registered for the marketplace and you have yet to register for Bruce's workshop, please do that. Registration is simple. It is nothing more than an email to me saying, hey, I'm coming. And then also, and I learned this lesson in spades today when the weather turned south and we had to get a jury panel together in downtown Indy. When you email me and say, hey, I want to come, also give me the number where I can reach you next Tuesday morning in the event the weather is bad and we need to cancel or postpone or whatever. Hopefully that won't happen, but if it does, I want to be able to reach all of the registrants. So just a simple email, hey, I'm coming, and here's my cell, or here's where I'll be next Tuesday morning is all I need. You need to know we only have 75 spots. The room will only hold 75 people, and we have 67 people registered so far. So we're down to our final less than 10. So if you've been putting this off, make the decision, send me an email. I sound like I'm selling cookware here. I think that is all I have. Oh, I do want to say we are not going to have a webinar next Tuesday night because of the Bruce workshop all day next Tuesday. So we'll skip next Tuesday night. The next webinar is going to be on the 4th of February, and then the next one will be the 4th of March, and then the next one will be the 8th of April. We've been every week, as you know. This is the third one over the last 3 weeks. I try to make these easy to remember. So next one's February 4, the following is March 4, the next one's April 8. They're all Tuesdays. They're all 7:30 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who live in Indiana but are not in the Eastern time zone, so 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And by the way, if I didn't say it, the Bruce workshop registration deadline is this Friday, the 24th, because we need to get the lunches ordered. We've invited artists and foodists from all over the state. It's not just for Indiana artisans, and like I say, we're down to fewer than 10 seats left. That's what I had. Do we have questions now, Jeff? Have I chewed up enough time?
Well, let me check. We did have one question from Carol who asks, Amy, who prints your display cards for you, or where do you get them? I don't know if Amy's still on the line. The lines are open if you have a question, or Amy, if you're on the call. Amy, are you there? She had some challenges with cell phone coverage, so she may not be there, but maybe we can get the answer for her and pass that along to Carol later. Any other questions on the phone? Richard from Bloomington says no questions, but want to make sure to thank all the presenters for their time and great ideas.
And I want to say again, as Jeff has said, he records these, and then he being Jeff, then posts them to YouTube, and we link them to our website. So if you dialed in late, and I've got it in 2 emails from 2 different artisans who did dial in late, you can go to our website tomorrow and click a link and watch this from stem to stern, or you can scoot ahead and just catch the parts that you didn't catch. And I want to thank Jeff Bell again. As I say every week, Jeff is Carol Bell, an Indiana artisan potter's husband. And Jeff stays late in the office for us and hosts this series, and we couldn't make it happen without you, Jeff. So again, thanks a lot. We really appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. Hey, Eric, there is one question. If Tasha's still on the line, somebody asked, are the black boxes on a bookshelf?
I'm here, and no, they're not on a bookshelf. I just clipped them together, and that's what kept them from falling over. So it's like one humongous cardboard box with sections. That's what those black clips were for. Because I would cut like a little rectangular hole off of the backs of them. The backs, the sides, the tops, the bottoms, and the sides of the boxes in the back. And then I use those black clips to hold it all together.
Thanks. I think that's it in terms of questions, Eric. Thank you very, very much.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you next Tuesday at Bruce's Workshop.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.